Rwanda, Kinyarwanda, Rwanda, Rwanda, officially the Republic of Rwanda, is a sovereign state in Central and East Africa and one of the smallest countries on the African mainland. Located a few degrees south of the equator, Rwanda is bordered by Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Rwanda is in the African Great Lakes region and is highly elevated, its geography dominated by mountains in the western savanna to the east, with numerous lakes throughout the country. The climate is temperate to subtropical, with 2 rainy seasons and 2 dry seasons each year. The population is young and predominantly rural, with a density among the highest in Africa. Rwandans are drawn from just one cultural and linguistic group, the Banyarwanda, although within this group there are 3 subgroups: the Hutu, Tutsi and Twa. The Twa are a forest-dwelling pygmy people descended from Rwanda's earliest inhabitants. Scholars disagree on the origins of and differences between the Hutu and Tutsi. Some believe differences are derived from former social castes within a single people, while others believe the Hutu and Tutsi arrived in the country separately, and from different locations. Christianity is the largest religion in the country. The principal language is Kinyarwanda, spoken by most Rwandans, with French and English serving as official languages. Rwanda has a presidential system of government. The president is Paul Kagame of the Rwandan Patriotic Front, who took office in 2000. Rwanda today has low corruption compared with neighboring countries, although human rights organizations report suppression of opposition groups, intimidation and restrictions on freedom of speech. The country has been governed by a strict administrative hierarchy since pre-colonial times. There are 5 provinces delineated by borders drawn in 2006. Rwanda is one of only 2 countries with a female majority in the national parliament. Hunter-gatherers settled the territory in the Stone and Iron Ages, followed later by Bantu peoples. The population coalesced first into clans and then into kingdoms. The Kingdom of Rwanda dominated from the mid-18th century, with the Tutsi kings conquering others militarily, centralizing power, and later enacting anti-Hutu policies. Germany colonized Rwanda in 1884 as part of German East Africa, followed by Belgium, which invaded in 1916 during World War I. Both European nations ruled through the kings and perpetuated a pro-Tutsi policy. The Hutu population revolted in 1959. They massacred numerous Tutsi and ultimately established an independent, Hutu-dominated state in 1962. The Tutsi-led Rwandan Patriotic Front launched a civil war in 1990. Social tensions erupted in the 1994 genocide, in which Hutu extremists killed an estimated 500,000 to 1 million Tutsi and moderate Hutu. The RPF ended the genocide with a military victory. Rwanda's economy suffered heavily during the 1994 Rwandan genocide, but has since strengthened. The economy is based mostly on subsistence agriculture. Coffee and tea are the major cash crops for e-export. Tourism is a fast-growing sector and is now the country's leading foreign exchange earner. Rwanda is one of only 2 countries in which mountain gorillas can be visited safely, and visitors are prepared to pay high prices for gorilla tracking permits. Music and dance are an integral part of Rwandan culture, particularly drums and the highly choreographed Intore dance. Traditional arts and crafts are produced throughout the country, including imigongo, a unique cow dung art. History. Modern human settlement of what is now Rwanda dates from, at the latest, the last glacial period, either in the Neolithic period around 8000 BC, or in the long humid period which followed, up to around 3000 BC. Archaeological excavations have revealed evidence of sparse settlement by hunter-gatherers in the Late Stone Age, followed by a larger population of early Iron Age settlers, who produced dimpled pottery and iron tools. These early inhabitants were the ancestors of the Twa, Aboriginal pygmy hunter-gatherers who remain in Rwanda today. Between 700 BC and 1500 AD, a number of Bantu groups migrated into Rwanda, clearing forest land for agriculture. The forest-dwelling Twa lost much of their habitat and moved to the mountain slopes. Historians have several theories regarding the nature of the Bantu migrations. One theory is that the first settlers were Hutu, while the Tutsi migrated later to form a distinct racial group, possibly of Cushitic origin. An alternative theory is that the migration was slow and steady, with incoming groups integrating into rather than conquering the existing society. Under this theory, the Hutu and Tutsi distinction arose later and was a class distinction rather than a racial one. The earliest form of social organization in the area was the clan. The clans were not limited to genealogical lineages or geographical area, and most included Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa. From the 15th century, the clans began to coalesce into kingdoms. By 1700, around 8 kingdoms existed in present-day Rwanda. One of these, the Kingdom of Rwanda, ruled by the Tutsi Nyaginya clan, became increasingly dominant from the mid-18th century. The kingdom reached its greatest extent during the 19th century under the reign of King Kigali Awabugiri. Awabugiri conquered several smaller states, expanded the kingdom west and north, and initiated administrative reforms. These included Ubuhaki, in which Tutsi patrons ceded cattle, and therefore privileged status, to Hutu or Tutsi clients in exchange for economic and personal service, and Uburetwa, a corvée system in which Hutu were forced to work for Tutsi chiefs. Awabugiri's changes caused a rift to grow between the Hutu and Tutsi populations. The Twa were better off than in pre-kingdom days, with some becoming dancers in the royal court, but their numbers continued to decline. The Berlin Conference of 1884 assigned the territory to Germany as part of German East Africa, marking the beginning of the colonial era. The explorer Gustav Adolf von Goetzen was the first European to significantly explore the country in 1894. He crossed from the southeast to Lake Kivu, and met the king. The Germans did not significantly alter the social structure of the country, but exerted influence by supporting the king and the existing hierarchy and delegating power to local chiefs. Belgian forces took control of Rwanda and Burundi during World War I, beginning a period of more direct colonial rule. Belgium simplified and centralized the power structure, and introduced large-scale projects in education, health, public works, and agricultural supervision, including new crops and improved agricultural techniques to try to reduce the incidence of famine. Both the Germans and the Belgians promoted Tutsi supremacy, considering the Hutu and Tutsi different races. In 1935, Belgium introduced identity cards labeling each individual as either Tutsi, Hutu, Twa or naturalized. While it had previously been possible for particularly wealthy Hutu to become honorary Tutsi, the identity cards prevented any further movement between the classes. Belgium continued to rule Rwanda as a UN Trust territory after World War II, with a mandate to oversee independence. Hutu activists began killing Tutsi, forcing more than 100,000 to seek refuge in neighboring countries. In 1961, the now pro-Hutu Belgians held a referendum in which the country voted to abolish the monarchy. Rwanda was separated from Burundi and gained independence in 1962. Cycles of violence followed, with exiled Tutsi attacking from neighboring countries and the Hutu retaliating with large-scale slaughter and repression of the Tutsi. In 1973, Juvenal Habyarimana took power in a military coup. Pro-Hutu discrimination continued, but there was greater economic prosperity and a reduced amount of violence against Tutsi. The Twa remained marginalized, and by 1990 were almost entirely forced out of the forests by the government. Many became beggars. Rwanda's population had increased from 1.6 million people in 1934 to 7.1 million in 1989, leading to competition for land. In 1990, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, a rebel group composed mostly of Tutsi refugees, invaded northern Rwanda, initiating the Rwandan Civil War. Neither side was able to gain a decisive advantage in the war, but by 1992 it had weakened Habyarimana's authority. Mass demonstrations forced him into a coalition with the domestic opposition and eventually to sign the 1993 Arusha Accords with the RPF. The ceasefire ended on 6 April 1994 when Habyarimana's plane was shot down near Kigali Airport, killing him. The shooting down of the plane served as the catalyst for the Rwandan genocide, which began within a few hours. Over the course of approximately 100 days, between 500,000 and 1 million Tutsi and politically moderate Hutu were killed in well-planned attacks on the orders of the interim government. Many TWA were also killed, despite not being directly targeted. The Tutsi RPF restarted their offensive, and took control of the country methodically, gaining control of the whole country by mid-July. The international response to the genocide was limited, with major powers reluctant to strengthen the already overstretched UN peacekeeping force. When the RPF took over, approximately 2 million Hutu fled to neighboring countries, in particular Zaire, fearing reprisals. Additionally, the RPF-led army was a key belligerent in the First and Second Congo Wars. Within Rwanda, a period of reconciliation and justice began, with the establishment of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda and the reintroduction of Gacaca, a traditional village court system. Since 2000, Rwanda's economy, tourist numbers, and Human Development Index have grown rapidly. Between 2006 and 2011, the poverty rate reduced from 57% to 45%, while life expectancy rose from 46.6 years in 2000 to 59.7 years in 2015. Politics and government. The President of Rwanda is the head of state, and has broad powers including creating policy in conjunction with the cabinet, exercising the prerogative of mercy, commanding the armed forces, negotiating and ratifying treaties, signing presidential orders, in declaring war or a state of emergency. The President is elected by popular vote every 7 years, and appoints the Prime Minister and all other members of cabinet. The incumbent president is Paul Kagame, who took office upon the resignation of his predecessor, Pastor Bizimungu, in 2000. Kagame subsequently won elections in 2003 and 2010, although human rights organizations have criticized these elections as being marked by increasing political repression and a crackdown on free speech. Article 101 of the current constitution limits presidents to 2 terms in office. But as of 2015 there is a motion underway in the Rwandan parliament to amend this and allow Kagame to run for a 3rd term. The motion, which would require ratification by referendum, was brought following receipt of a petition signed by 3.8 million Rwandans. The constitution was adopted following a national referendum in 2003, replacing the transitional constitution which had been in place since 1994. The constitution mandates a multi-party system of government, with politics based on democracy and elections. However, the constitution places conditions on how political parties may operate. Article 54 states that political organizations are prohibited from basing themselves on race, ethnic group, tribe, clan, region, sex, religion or any other division which may give rise to discrimination. The government has also enacted laws criminalizing genocide ideology, which can include intimidation, defamatory speeches, genocide denial and mocking of victims. According to Human Rights Watch, these laws effectively make Rwanda a one-party state, as, under the guise of preventing another genocide, the government displays a marked intolerance of the most basic forms of dissent. Amnesty International is also critical. In its 2014-15 report, Amnesty said that laws against inciting insurrection or trouble among the population had been used to imprison people for the legitimate exercise of their rights to freedom of association or of expression. The parliament consists of two chambers. It makes legislation and is empowered by the Constitution to oversee the activities of the President and the Cabinet. The lower chamber is the Chamber of Deputies, which has 80 members serving 5-year terms. 24 of these seats are reserved for women, elected through a joint assembly of local government officials. Another 3 seats are reserved for youth and disabled members. The remaining 53 are elected by universal suffrage under a proportional representation system. Following the 2013 election, there are 51 female deputies, up from 45 in 2008. As of 2015, Rwanda is one of only 2 countries with a female majority in the national parliament. The upper chamber is the 26-seat Senate, whose members are selected by a variety of bodies. A mandatory minimum of 30% of the senators are women. Senators serve 8-year terms. Rwanda's legal system is largely based on German and Belgian civil law systems and customary law. The judiciary is independent of the executive branch, although the President and the Senate are involved in the appointment of Supreme Court judges. Human Rights Watch have praised the Rwandan government for progress made in the delivery of justice, including the abolition of the death penalty, but also allege interference in the judicial system by members of the government, such as the politically motivated appointment of judges, misuse of prosecutorial power, and pressure on judges to make particular decisions. The Constitution provides for 2 types of courts: ordinary and specialized. Ordinary courts are the Supreme Court, the High Court, and regional courts, while specialized courts are military courts and a system of commercial courts created in 2011 to expedite commercial litigations. Between 2004 and 2012, a system of Gacaca courts was in operation. Gacaca, a Rwandan traditional court operated by villages and communities, was revived to expedite the trials of genocide suspects. The court succeeded in clearing the backlog of genocide cases, but was criticized by human rights groups as not meeting legal fair standard. Rwanda has low corruption levels relative to most other African countries. In 2014, Transparency International ranked Rwanda as the 5th cleanest out of 47 countries in sub-Saharan Africa and 55th cleanest out of 175 in the world. The Constitution provides for an ombudsman, whose duties include prevention and fighting of corruption. Public officials are required by the Constitution to declare their wealth to the Ombudsman and to the public. Those who do not comply are suspended from office. The Rwandan Patriotic Front has been the dominant political party in the country since 1994. The RPF has maintained control of the presidency and the parliament in national elections, with the party's vote share consistently exceeding 70%. The RPF is seen as a Tutsi-dominated party but receives support from across the country, and is credited with ensuring continued peace, stability, and economic growth. Human rights organization Freedom House claims that the government suppresses the freedoms of opposition groups. In its 2015 report, Freedom House alleged that the RPF had prevented new political parties from registering and arrested the leaders of several existing parties, effectively preventing them from fielding candidates in elections. Amnesty International also claims that the RPF rules Rwanda without any meaningful opposition. Rwanda is a member of the United Nations, African Union, Francophonie, East African Community, and the Commonwealth of Nations. For many years during the Habyarimana regime, the country maintained close ties with France, as well as Belgium, the former colonial power. Under the RPF government, however, Rwanda has sought closer ties with neighboring countries in the East African Community and with the English-speaking world. Diplomatic relations with France were suspended in 2006 following the indictment of Rwandan officials by a French judge, and despite their restoration in 2010, as of 2015 relations between the countries remained strained. Relations with the Democratic Republic of the Congo were tense following Rwanda's involvement in the First and Second Congo Wars. The Congolese army alleged Rwandan attacks on their troops, while Rwanda blamed the Congolese government for failing to suppress Hutu rebels in North and South Kivu provinces. Relations soured further in 2012, as Kinshasa accused Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebellion, an insurgency in the eastern Congo. As of 2015, peace has been restored and relations are improving. Rwanda's relationship with Uganda was also tense for much of the 2000s following a 1999 clash between the two countries' armies as they backed opposing rebel groups in the Second Congo War, but improved significantly in the early 2010s. As of 2015, the two countries enjoy a good relationship. The Rwanda Defense Force is the National Army of Rwanda, largely composed of former Rwandan Patriotic Army soldiers. It includes the Rwanda Land Force, Rwanda Air Force and specialized units. After the successful conquest of the country in 1994 in the aftermath of the Rwandan genocide, the Rwandan Patriotic Front decided to split the RPF into a political division and the RDF, a military division which was to serve as the official army of the Rwandan state. Defense spending continues to represent an important share of the national budget, largely due to continuing security problems along the frontiers with the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Burundi, and lingering concerns about Uganda's intentions towards its former ally. In 2010, the United Nations released a report accusing the Rwandan army of committing wide-scale human rights violations and crimes against humanity in the Democratic Republic of the Congo during the First and Second Congo Wars, charges denied by the Rwandan government.